host Mike Alvarez, also known as Osmologist. This week we'll continue with the second half of my conversation with Amanda, Matthew, and Sky, in which we cover Mass Effect 3 right up until the ending. Our original conversation lasted over 3 hours, and in trying to keep these podcasts limited to a reasonable time, this conversation has been heavily edited. Please forgive any abrupt cuts and transitions. I also want to note that Matt had to leave for work early, so he was not around at the end of the conversation. So here's the rest of the coverage of Mass Effect 3 before we move on to next week's conversation, in which we cover the end of the game. Thank you very much, and enjoy. The next big section we get to is the Quarian and Geth War. For some odd reason, the Quarians decided that in the midst of this turmoil, now would be a great time to try to take over their homeworld and get it back from the Geth. So you're sent off to go... Pardon?
They started the war before the Reapers invaded.
Well, yeah, but let's face it.
Shepard warned them that they were coming.
Yes.
But they kind of treated it like the council, and they're like, blah, 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 stick their fingers in their ears, and they decided to go to war with the Geth anyway.
Right. Well,
anyway.
and that said, too, though, even though the Reapers are invading, you kind of get the idea, at least through Mass Effect, and I wish they'd done a little bit better job of this, but you kind of get the idea that weeks and possibly months are taking place over the course of Mass Effect 3. That the Reapers aren't just wiping out Earth in, like, 1 or 2 days. Like, it's a long, slow process, which is why you have the time to build up the forces. And it's also why, at least initially, I thought that the Quarians were taking advantage of this situation in trying to do what they were doing. I realized afterwards that, yes, I was incorrect. It seems like they actually started the invasion just before the Reapers also decided to invade. So anyways, the Quarians start their attack, and the Geth then turn back to the Reapers for support, essentially, because the Quarians were winning. Up until then, they ended up getting upgraded with the Reaper code. So you get to go meet up with the Quarian admirals, and once again, if you played Mass Effect 2 right, Tali is still alive. If you didn't, go back and play it. And
Tali's still alive in my play, thank you.
No. This isn't directed at you. This is also directed at any listeners that are listening into the podcast. That I will judge you on how many people you have alive, which should be all of them. This to me is my favorite part of the game. Number one, yes, Tali was my ally, although really for the Mass Effect 2, I thought it was just, I liked her a lot in Mass Effect 1 because she was really, really useful in Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2. I found her gameplay-wise very useful. I know a lot of folks didn't, but I figured her out real quick. In Mass Effect 3, when we meet her, if she's your ally, you kind of get like a different intro to her. Like, it's definitely kind of like this like big shock moment that she shows up. If she's not, I know the music still kind of goes up and it's like, oh hey, here's Tali. Now depending on your effect on your events in Mass Effect 2, if you got her acquitted of her charges without getting her exiled, or rather, yeah, if you don't get her exiled, she's an admiral. If she is exiled, she's simply a advisor to the Quarians. I'm not quite sure what happens if you give over her father's data. I think she ends up dying no matter what if you do that, correct? Because she stays unloyal? She's
not loyal, but she can live as long as you don't send her into the docks or make her a leader or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. Because that's like the one bit that I haven't been able to see anyone do, that they've been able to get her unloyal at the same time, have her live. So,
from what I understand, if a character is unloyal, no matter who it is, as long as you don't put them into a compromising position in the suicide mission, they make it out.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. So, and. One of the things that struck me, because in the adventure, certainly, as having Tali as your love interest, Rannoch turns less into saving the Geth and the Quarians or uniting them or one side or the other, and I know to me the game almost turned into a love story, because it really played off as, yes, you're doing it for the Quarians, but you're really just kind of doing it for her. You know, all this getting back Rannoch, everything is almost like Shepard saying, I'm going to take 3 days from saving the galaxy to get you your homeworld back. And I absolutely loved that tone in the game. Now, if you didn't have her as your LI, maybe you didn't get that tone or that impression that it was just more you're here for the forces. But I thought from the LI perspective that it was definitely a really strong part of the story. Now, I'm assuming no one else here had Tali as their love interest, right? Matthew?
No.
Okay,
No.
just who was your love interest, by the way?
Ashley, for the most part, depending on my primary playthrough was Ashley.
Gotcha.
I did various other. I did have Tali at one point through.
Right.
So,
Yeah, in one of the other I mean, I have other playthroughs with other love interests too, but really, it's mostly just Tali.
No, but I see the draw.
Yes. Well, it's trust me, I know I'll definitely hear from it on this podcast in my unabashed Tali love. So moving on with the actual story, we move on to the Geth Dreadnought because we have to take out the Reaper code being transmitted to the rest of the Geth fleet that's basically wiping out the Quarians and preventing them from leaving. And at the end of this mission, we come across the source of this signal being sent out, and that's Legion. Once again, assuming you're playing the game correctly. Otherwise, it's this Geth VI, which is an upload of Legion's experiences with Shepard, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure what happens if you never turn Legion on. Does anyone know?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
because you do have that option in Mass Effect 2 to simply not turn Legion on. And there's a tidbit about that towards the end if you don't. But it turns out it's Legion, so you can therefore rescue Legion from the Reapers and the heretic Geth. I guess at this point, I'm not sure if they're heretic or the Geth that has simply moved on, or
They're all Geth.
yeah,
They only allied with the Reapers because the Reapers could help them win against the Quarians.
right. Yeah, because this time it's less about heretics and whatnot and more about survival. They've simply gone to the Reapers in order to survive.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. You're able to save Legion, and upon escaping the ship, the Quarians, instead of leaving, Admiral Gerrel, I believe, starts firing on the Dreadnought and starts to try to take it out while he can and while you're aboard, which leads to one of the best interrupts when you get back to the ship of being able to punch Gerrel in the gut.
I was gonna say, who did not take that Renegade option? I don't care if you play Paragon or not.
Well, I actually thought that the Paragon option should have been to punch him in the gut, not the Renegade, because Paragon Shepard was the Paragon dialogue option there was, I understand why you did it. That seems more of a Renegade thing to say, don't you think?
It does.
Oh, well,
It does.
if we were collateral damage, then okay. That seems more of a Renegade thing to say than a Paragon thing. I actually thought those two were really swapped. But that was just me.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but who would not take that option? You just tried to kill me.
That was awesome. I love that. Get the hell off my ship. That was awesome.
I do know there were plenty of people that didn't take that option simply because they were still playing on the Mass Effect 2 mindset, where the Paragon and Renegade system in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 1 as well, you really played towards a total reputation thing, whereas in Mass Effect 3, they really cleaned it up so that you could take those Renegade interrupts, you can take those Paragon interrupts, and it wouldn't affect your hinder your ability to take certain actions later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely took that, and I took that option my very first playthrough, straight through. I was just like, yeah, I'm definitely punching this guy.
Yeah.
You're a soldier. You should
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, you're a soldier. I punch you. You should understand.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he gets reprimanded, and I understand, like, if you have Tally alive, like, it's, it almost seems like he's just cutting his losses, like he could kind of care less, for Shepard. Tally, he just wants to take out. He saw the military advantage to it, but if Tally's not alive, and the Quarian that goes with you is Admiral Zen, and although she doesn't fight with you in the mission, she does come onto the ship, and you get little bits with her on the ship. He'll also fire when she's on the ship, which I actually thought was kind of interesting. That it's not necessarily about Shepard or Tally or anything. Like, he just saw the opportunity and took it. Well, anyways, let's move on with these. Does anyone want to cover Legion?
So for Mass Effect 2, he depending on what you did during his loyalty mission, whether you uploaded virus or you, like, what was it, destroy the heretics?
Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that played out in the dog. I actually forgot what I chose my first playthrough. Was what I did with Legion's loyalty mission. But like, what Legion has grown from, like, well, we're all Geth, we're all one. And then, like, you kind of start seeing this, like, individual Legion. And, does this unit have soul? And,
yeah.
like, I love that development in Legion. Because, like, I really think that's a huge step for the Geth.
Yeah, Legion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, Legion definitely steps it up. One of the great scenes is when you first get Legion on your ship, and the Quarians are all upset about it and everything. But you get to talk to Legion, and Legion, says that, when he left you, he went back to the Geth, and like I said, you start getting little bits and vibes of, like, Legion is more of an individual going back to the collective, to explain to them what's going on. And there's this great bit of dialogue where, he says, where he explains to them about the Reapers and the threat the Reapers posed, and they all just agreed with him. And Shepard says, just like that. and and it's just like it's a great little moment of comedy because Legion doesn't quite get the joke. He doesn't realize the humor in it right then and there, that they're just so willing to listen to him, because the Geth think collectively. It's a great little tidbit there. But yeah, depending on your events in Mass Effect 2, if technically sparing the heretics is the correct choice, but if I'm not mistaken, it actually makes things a little bit harder in Mass Effect 3.
Yes.
It does make it easier to gain a peace between the Geth and the Quarian, but you kind of get the feeling that at least initially, that it may have been the wrong choice. But Legion, certainly, there's a great mission with him to go into the Geth consensus, and you kind of really get to learn the truth behind the Morning War, that it's really the Quarians' fault. That not only did they start the war, the Geth were merely trying to preserve themselves, but then the Quarians also eliminated other Quarians who had sided with the Geth. And it's really it's kind of a heartbreaking story.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been talking a lot, so I'm gonna let you guys.
Okay.
This one.
Matt.
I thought.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was like, I thought it was a really interesting interface to do that with the going into the consensus.
It was.
Like it was kind of hard for me to get get the hang of it, like trying to destroy the virus parts in there, because I was like, I don't understand. So I kept on, like, shooting, and it just kept on, like, rebuilding itself.
Yeah.
After a while, like, it was really fun. I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting. It's probably the only mission we get in Mass Effect 3 that's different from all the other missions. It's the only one that is kind of a puzzle mission. And we can touch on that actually real quick right now, because in Mass Effect 3 they really cut out a lot of that side stuff. In Mass Effect 2 there were plenty of little side missions where you got to go off and it was either just Shepard by himself running around a derelict ship, or trying to turn on some like shields kind of thing. These little 15-minute missions little side missions you would get with Shepard Mass Effect 2. and certain puzzly kind of stuff that you didn't get that at all in Mass Effect 3 until Legion's mission. And it was kind of a nice, breath of fresh air. It's because it's kind of in the middle of the game. You get this opportunity to just kind of like run around and not just shoot things that are shooting back at you. So
I thought the change up in the harkening back to ME2 it felt like a nice change of pace in the game.
It did
right there.
It did. Yeah. I mean, in the long run, I do kind of wish they had more of those moments in Mass Effect 3. But that said, though, for the experience that that I had going up to it, it was definitely a fun mission, and mostly because of all the lore that you get in it. It's a really it's an eye-opening section of the game, especially if you're very much interested in the Geth and Quarian conflict. It's also very important that you do this mission if you hope to get any sort of Geth-Quarian peace. The other mission for Geth-Quarian peace is when you were doing the Geth Dreadnought mission. Admiral Chorus's ship crashes, and you have the option to go save him. And in that quick little side mission, if you do save him, you can broker a peace. If you don't save him, however, there's no chance at brokering a peace between the Geth and the Quarians. And it's definitely a hard choice because it's like, do you save one guy or do you save a bunch of civilians? One quick little side note here. I'm not sure if you guys remember Tally's loyalty mission in Mass Effect 2, but there was these little audio dialogues, these little audio logs that you can go click on, and one was this mother who was telling, who's giving a goodbye message to her son Jonah.
Yeah,
I remember.
I got that right away.
Yes, and then when you go to rescue Chorus, you come across Jonah's father.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is one of the best Easter eggs ever. It's because it's so heartbreaking when you make that connection, when you realize there's an orphan out there. There's a Quarian orphan by the name of Jonah that's out there, and it's just it's a great little tidbit there.
That was very good. Although I wanted to add to the Chorus mission, it would have been the choice between saving the civilians and saving Chorus would have been a lot more poignant if they had included Cal Rieger.
Yes, Cal Rieger, or I would even say
Cal Rieger was missing. They killed him off in an email, and I was quite mad because I'm an Adam Baldwin fangirl. I'm unabashedly not ashamed of that. But if they would have had Cal Rieger like defending the civilians,
yes,
and having you either had to save Cal Rieger and the civilians or to save Admiral Chorus.
Yeah,
that would have made the choice virtually impossible for me.
Or I would even say, because you come across two other Quarians in Mass Effect 2. You come across the kid that's on Omega. I can't remember his...
Ken.
Ken, yes. You come across Ken on Omega, and then Lana on the Citadel. I think any combination of those three, or all three of them, like if you had the choice of saving basically what you know to be three nice Quarians over a Quarian who really gave you a hard time in Mass Effect 2,
yes,
I think that would have made that a much, much harder decision to make.
But now, when you make that, but the way it is, when you make that decision, I kind of feel bad because it's like one of those where it's like, well, I need Chorus, so automatically I'm gonna whisk away Chorus.
Right. See, I didn't quite know going in, but I had an inkling, that it's just like, it feels right to go save a bunch of people, so I bet saving Chorus is the right thing to do. Like I'd already gotten to that. I kind of already started to figure out the game here in Mass Effect 3, where it's kind of like, well, whatever feels right, do the other thing.
Exactly. Well, and you also get a definite feel from the admirals, like especially Ron, I think it was just like, if we're going to, keep the civilian fleet safe, we need Admiral Chorus.
Right.
So I kind of thought of it as, well, the civilian population from this one ship versus the civilian population of all the other ships.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving things on, we finally get to actually attack a Geth base on Rannoch in order to stop the signal altogether from being transmitted excuse me. And upon completing that mission, we find out that it's not a Geth signal, but rather an actual Reaper that's inside the base. And you come across, to me, one of, like, you know, this is right up there with the, you know, Thresher Maw taking on the Reaper. Only this time, you're taking on a Reaper on foot, which to me was just an absolutely awesome moment. Once again, going into if you romance Tally, I'll make sure I link up a video to this, because the scene there kind of changes when you're escaping the base on that Geth tank, and Shepard just, you know, tells Legion to pull over. You get the "I love you" moment from Tally, and it's totally just like this great scene of just, you know, Shepard's like, all right, you know, I'm just gonna get this done with, you know, once and for all, and I'm doing it for Tally, which is just fantastic. Like I said, for me, that part of the game turned, like I said, from just a side mission or a mission to collect more forces to an actual love story in space. It was just great. So you take out this Reaper on foot, and this is the first time since Mass Effect 2 we actually get to talk to a Reaper again.
Talking to the Reapers, I enjoyed being able to do that in Mass Effect 1. I was kind of disappointed you kind of didn't really get to do much of it in Mass Effect 2 unless you got the Arrival DLC.
Right.
I like the fact that if the Renegade option that you, or interrupt that you can get, is like, oh, well, I'm just going to point my gun at you some more so they shoot some more quarry crap at you on the ground. It was a great interrupt, because he's like, oh, well, you still don't understand. He's like, no, I'm just going to kill you, and I'm going to kill everybody else.
That's funny. You know what? Playing a Paragon, I don't think you get that interrupt. Like, you have to be a full Renegade to get that interrupt.
That was a...
I didn't get it either, and like that, tell your friends we're coming for them. Like, yeah. I think I only got that when I played my Renegade. Because I tried to find it when I was doing my Paragon NG Plus, and it wasn't there.
I was going to say, it was a great interrupt, though. It was just like, because you spend, you know, when you're fighting the Reaper, you spend most of the time, you know, honing the laser in on the giant red eyeball or laser for a target. And it's just like, you see it, all the Quarians firing as you're telling him, yeah, go tell your friends we're coming after them too. It's like, that's awesome.
That definitely sounds like an awesome scene. I've seen the video of that, and I haven't had a chance to play through it, but I've heard inklings that it's only a Renegade thing that you get. So that's great. I kind of wish my Paragon had that, because that's more or less... I kept choosing like the Renegade dialogue options with him, because I just wanted to stick it to the Reaper at this point, you know?
Yeah. But that was the biggest thing I liked really about the Reaper part of it. That was with my Renegade Shepard, obviously.
Right.
Well, I felt the Paragon side was kind of, the conversation was, it just didn't have that impact. It was just like, yeah, we're gonna kick your butt again,
right?
And that's really all I got.
Well,
whereas like the Renegade option is like, we're gonna kick your ass, and here's some proof we're gonna do it.
Well, the Paragon dialogue is actually more about, it's Shepard kind of pumping the Reaper for questions, you know, kind of like, or rather for answers. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, hey, you know, why are you guys doing this? And the Reaper just gives us more of the, you know, it's incomprehensible, and like you'll never quite understand it. And it's true, we never end up quite understand. We never really do understand it.
Yo dog memes. So... sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, it's all right. I do think it's a missed opportunity, especially considering the ending, that we could have had the Reaper kind of give us actually a bit more information one way or the other.
I do think it was a missed opportunity where, given the 14 lines of dialogue at later parts in the game,
right, that we could have gotten some more information from this Reaper. Yeah,
it would have been a great opportunity to get more out of what the Reapers are in general. Granted, I think it would have been better if that Reaper was actually a Harbinger.
Well,
personally,
it makes sense why it wasn't Harbinger on Rannoch. You know, and then not only that, we kind of find out that it's actually one of the smaller Reapers that you took out on foot. Yeah. So, not that it takes away anything from taking out a Reaper on foot, which I got to say, mechanically, playing through that part, I remember feeling all pumped up, jumping off that thing. Tally's like, I love you, and like Shepard's like, kill us alive, and then I got killed like 10 times.
That laser, hard to admit, freaking miss.
Well,
oh my word.
It's once you figure out the pattern. It's definitely a pattern thing. And like once you realize what that pattern is, I've yet to die from it again. But it was just like it took me about 10 tries to figure out what that pattern was. And once I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. Just roll, and then once it's at a certain point, just fire.
Yeah.
I had to figure out that like you can let go of the trigger.
Yes.
Won't cancel it if you let go of the trigger. So like I kept standing in the same place, like oh god, and then I die. But then I realized you could pull the trigger and release it.
Yeah.
And it like wouldn't mess up what you've done. So I was like, oh well, this makes this easier.
Yeah. Yeah, it lets you roll away like just in time too. But anyways, after you take out the Reaper, you then get to basically decide the fate of the Geth and the Quarians, whether or not you're going to unite them, or if you're going to choose one side over the other. Now, I ended up choosing to unite them. I had the correct options come up, or I made the certain choices throughout the game, both in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, that I was able to unite them and forge a peace. Now, did any of you choose one side over the other?
No.
Even as a renegade? No.
No, not even in my renegade playthrough, because I had just killed Rex and I was just like, no more. No more.
Okay, so you... Right, well then, just to go over then real quick, actually, Amanda, were you able to do it?
Yeah, I was able to broker.
Okay. Yeah, it was... well, then just to go over it just briefly, if you choose to spare the Geth over the Quarians, Tali will commit suicide, or if it's not Tali, it's Admiral Ron will commit suicide, as the Quarians are essentially wiped out. If it's the other way around, if you choose to save the Quarians, Legion tries to kill you, which is actually an interesting scene if you ever get a chance to see it on YouTube, or actually play through it. It's an interesting moment. And if Tali's with you, she will save your life. I'm not sure if Ron will. I think there's also the opportunity to take a interrupt to simply shoot Legion to save you. But you have to forgive me. I've only ever seen this on YouTube. I actually haven't played through it myself. And then, of course, there's the actual option to broker a peace. And I'm going to touch on this because it has to do with the ending. We can kind of talk a little bit about the ending, but it definitely flies in the face of everything we come across in the end.
Yes, it does.
Because it's one of those moments that even just outside of brokering the peace, Legion alone, the fact that you have a synthetic being that does not want to simply destroy everybody and all organic life, and in fact respects organic life almost to a revered state. We learned this in the in Legion's side mission, that he or rather that the Geth willingly chose to not eliminate the Quarians because they didn't understand what would happen. They didn't know if it would be the right thing to do, so they just didn't do it. It's an amazing moment, or realization rather, and it flies in the face of everything in the end. Any comments from you guys on this?
There's that particular instance of Legion becoming a full-blown artificial intelligence, or synthetic being, and the other particular member of your squad that is also learning and adapting to be a full artificial intelligence as well. So it kind of...
Yeah, we can actually go ahead and talk about Edie, because I realize we have not talked about Edie at all, and which is kind of a strike on our part, really. I should be.
We get into it.
No, it's all right. Well, so let's just consider the Geth Quarian bit wrapped up, and hoorah for making peace. If you didn't make peace, I don't. Yeah, and you're playing it wrong, right? No, actually,
even as a renegade, I made peace.
Well, actually, I will say this though, in light of knowing how the endings are and knowing that they really won't be changed, choosing to save the Quarians over the Geth seems like a less bad idea, because
because Tali's your love interest.
Well, no. This is less about Tali being your love interest. This is more about you can choose to commit genocide now, or choose to commit it later. That's what I'm getting at here. It's less about, how you, it's how you want to commit genocide. Do you want to let the Quarians do it, or do you want to be the one to pull the trigger?
Well, realistically, in the ending, the two of the options give you genocide regardless.
Right. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Anyway.
Right. So let's then talk briefly then about Edie, because Edie, at the end of the Mars mission, when we save that, when we take out that robot creature, we take the body back. Edie decides to take over the body, and she becomes a sexy fembot, which is now twice that Trisha Helfer has completely confused me when it comes to female robots. Because between Battlestar Galactica and her being a Cylon, and now Mass Effect and her being a hot fembot, I don't know what to think.
Whether or not she herself is.
I honestly don't think I can watch a single show or movie with her in it and not automatically start thinking she's probably a robot.
I don't know. I had mixed feelings on Edie.
Really?
Because I was in the camp before Mass Effect 3 even came out that was very hard shipping Joker Shepard. And that's where I actually started in the Mass Effect fan base. But the thing is that I really liked Edie's character and her character evolution in Mass Effect 3. I just was not sure that putting her into a body right off the bat was necessarily A, good for her, or B, the best thing to do. Because, she wants to explore the individuality as, we experience it. But at the same time, it was kind of like one of those where it's like, let's do it now, instead of let's kind of think about this first, Edie.
Right.
It's a big thing. But I like the way they played it. With the exception of the Joker Edie romance, I cannot do it. I absolutely abhor it.
That's all right. Does anyone else have any strong feelings about Edie?
Guess not.
Matt, Amanda, no, okay.
No, I'm not.
But one thing though to touch on her though is the fact that once again we got another AI here who chooses to protect and help organics, who doesn't want to kill organics, and who in fact sees the value of organics and synthetics living side by side. And we get this in Mass Effect 2 and more of it in Mass Effect 3, that she sees the Normandy's crew as it's a symbiotic relationship. They're there to help her just as much as she's there to help them. And beyond the Joker Edie romance, you still, there's still that amount of, like you were saying, camaraderie, whether it be a brother, sister, mothering, whatever relationship of, she only wants what's best for the crew and what's best for the Normandy.
She even sees herself beneath the organics, which, because all the synthetics that we've kind of seen so far, I think that they're, not necessarily the Geth, but definitely the Reapers, think themselves to be above.
Yeah.
Or, we're superior. But she thinks she's inferior because she's not organic.
Right.
That's what I really liked about Edie, is because she was kind of she was really humble. She was kind of should I consider myself inferior, or should I consider myself superior? Because the Reapers think themselves superior, but I'm not sure. She had that kind of conflict within, and you could actually talk to her about that. And you said, you know what, Edie, you're no different. And
I was gonna say I did like the interaction between her and Shepard about her questioning, her place in the universe and stuff, being where she fit in.
Yeah. And how it's great that she comes to Shepard with questions, and she says that, I think she's got something like, 11 million questions or something like that, but there's just one that she needs to get to him right now. So let's move on to the next part of the game, which is, this is outside the side missions and whatever, but Thesia. Now, one reason I haven't really quite brought him up just yet, Javik, who is the downloadable content day one character, that is pretty integral, or he's pretty important to the game, especially when it comes to Thesia, because the insight he gives on this mission really changes our perception of not only the Asari, but kind of the Protheans as well, and how they interacted with the younger species. Amanda, can I turn to you to introduce us to Javik?
Okay. So you have the From Ashes DLC. Pretty much you land on Eden Prime and you have to pretty much find a way to open up the pot for Javik. So once you get him and he comes on your you do get a good insight about all the species in the galaxy, how they were like in their primal days. Like something about like he makes a joke about the Solarians, about them eating flies.
And they used to lick their eyes.
Yeah, and I thought they're like reptilian or something like that, but I guess they're amphibian. And then Liara kind of goes fangirl over the whole situation, which I found hilarious.
Yes.
Because she's like, I have so many questions, and this, and this, and this, and Javik's like, he acts like a douchebag about it, which I can understand, because he's like, well, it's pointless, because you're all gonna die if you don't do anything.
Right.
So like, what does my cycle have to do with anything of your interest? But I actually did not take him with me on Thesia. I actually regret not doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like I would have gotten more out of Thesia. Thesia wasn't that big of a thing for me, but I think if I took Javik with me, I think I would have gotten a better insight into it.
Yeah, I didn't take Javik the first time either. I took Tally with me the first time, and you do get you still get most of the same information. Really, just to break down what happens on Thesia, you get a message from the Asari counselor that there's some very important information that's in a temple on Thesia, and Thesia is under attack from the Reapers. So you have to go there, and you have to go get this information before the Reapers, make it impossible to get there. So you race there, you get to the planet. Sure enough, it's under attack. You're basically just rallying what Asari commandos you can around you to help you out. Finally, you get to the temple, and when you get to the temple, you're examining various Prothean artifacts, or rather, you're examining certain ancient Asari artifacts, which you can't help but notice look an awful lot like Prothean artifacts, and that in fact the Asari gods, or the gods the Asari believe they had, were in fact Prothean. You kind of get that anyways, I guess, regardless of what squad mate you take with you. They all have their doubts and kind of point out to Liara that, gee, this looks a lot like a Prothean thing, and so on. But if you have Javik in the party, he basically outright states who these people were, and what they had, like what they were doing. That in fact that they saw the Asari as the future of the galaxy, that they saw them as the best chance for the galaxy to defeat and overcome the Reaper cycle, and tried to seed them with as much knowledge and information. And if I'm not mistaken, they actively played around with the genetics of the Asari so that they could be stronger biotics. Am I incorrect in thinking that?
I don't quite remember. Thesia was just such a quick mission. I did take Javik the first time because something told me I should. That was great foresight on my part, because I was like, I can't imagine not taking Javik now. But he, I think I remember him saying something about that, about like tinkering with the Asari, maybe, at least conditioning them at some point. But
right.
I don't remember anything specifically like that.
I was gonna say, I remember him saying how they guided their society to what they felt they needed to for like technology and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Built them up essentially, but indirectly.
Right. I think it was just early on. I think, or rather, at some point in there, there's a whole thing about how the Asari basically teaching them biotics was a straight up Prothean ability, or a Prothean influence. Was making the Asari more adept at it. Well, moving on then as well. We then get our reappearance of Kai Lang, And basically Kai Lang kicks Shepard's ass, which is an interesting moment. Does anyone want to go over the battle between Kai Lang and Shepard? Matthew?
Can Kai Lang just get killed by, can you just kill him when right there? That'd be great.
Yeah. It's unfortunately one of those forced battles where it's like, no matter how many headshots you get on him with a sniper rifle, it's like, oh, you're not going to take any damage.
Yeah,
Like,
it's one of those, like, oh, great, here comes the gunship again.
right.
Painfully obvious as that was the case.
Yeah, especially because in Mass Effect 2, I'm pretty sure I blew up at least 4 gunships, on my own, with,
If I remember correctly, it blew up the one Garrus couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I was taking out gunships pretty early on. But yeah, but you are forced into this fight, and dramatically though, it does play out well. Especially because once Shepard does get his butt handed to him, he's pissed. I mean, or she's pissed. But like in my case, Shepard was was really ticked off, really stuck with losing, which was just it played out very well in the dialogue scenes that happened afterwards, both in talking to the Asari counselor, talking to Hackett, speaking with the crew members afterwards. Like, Shepard's really taking a big hit here.
Oh, it's because at that point, up into every other part of the series, he's been able to overcome pretty much everything.
Right.
And at that point, it's like, I just got my butt kicked by a cyborg ninja with swords.
Yeah.
I think I was able to own him before he got stabbed.
Exactly.
Half dead.
Yeah, it is kind of sad when you get, when your main character gets his butt handed to him by a Final Fantasy trope. But
there's no spiky hair.
Well, no, but there's a ridiculous looking mask.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, but immediately afterwards, I mean, we get this breakdown of Shepard. We get some great dialogue moments. Does anyone have any particular moments that they want to speak about after from post Thesia, or rather what they learned from Thesia?
I like the dialogue between Garrus and Shepard at that point when Garrus talks about having to give advice to the Primarch.
Yes, and then also the whole bit about when Shepard kind of comes in, he's feeling really down, and he starts rambling into something, and Garrus interrupts him and just says, and that's when your best friend picks you up, dusts you off, and tells you to keep on fighting.
Yep.
Yeah, that is Garrus has some of the best dialogue in this game.
Yeah, Garrus is not.
Yeah, seriously, I want to shake the hand of whoever wrote Garrus, because he had some fantastic stuff. Amanda, I'm sorry, I think you wanted to say something there at one point.
Oh, I love the whole idea of like what Thesia did to Shepard, because we've been playing these games, and Shepard is like he is the hero, and you can overcome anything, always pretty much at the top of everything. But to kind of get your ass handed to you, like it kind of in a way humbles Shepard, like at least in my opinion.
No, it does, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just like, so it kind of creates this vulnerability in Shepard that we've never seen before, and I loved that aspect.
My Shepard, the way I saw it, because it wasn't like my Shepard got beat up or anything necessarily. It's Shepard was defeated.
Right.
And like I didn't. It was so much Shepard got his ass kicked, but Shepard was defeated. And Shepard, at least my Shepard, is a very driven individual. Like can do, never say die. But to have there is nothing that Shepard could do, and Kai Lang just stole that secret for the catalyst right out from under Shepard's watchful gaze, and Shepard really couldn't do anything about that. I'm sure that really ground Shepard's gears, and you can tell.
Yeah, and I think the real kicker of it too was at the end when you get that email from Kai Lang, which looks like it's a piece of spam at first, and then it's really just Kai Lang being a dick.
He wasn't
I hated that.
He wasn't like that in Retribution.
It sounds like it sounds like and because I'd done a little bit of research on this, and that's why I was a little bit confused. And I'm glad you explained earlier that I guess in Retribution, and then in the other book, it seems like there's 3 different Kai Langs almost.
Yeah,
and I wonder.
Yeah, I definitely get the sense. Kai Lang was just a satire and deception. Let's just throw that away for a second.
Yeah.
But in Retribution, he was a cold bastard. Excuse my language. It was insane, like kind of scary. But in I think they wanted to add a little bit more cheese to him. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a bit more of a taunting type of a thing. But I don't know. I agree with you. I think there are kind of more like 3 Kai Langs that we've seen in the media and in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate we get this. There's a bit of a disconnect here, but at the same time, I mean, Kai Lang served his purpose, especially when it comes to the next portion of the game, where we have to deal with Horizon and then the attack on Cerberus. So post Thesia, Samantha Trainer, who we really haven't kind of gotten into much detail about, but who is a fantastic new side character. And I will say, I've said this before and I'll say this again, I am jealous that only femsheps can get her, because she is the only non-crazy female who's human, who is romanceable, only just not by men, because just about every other female is got some sort of daddy issue or something going on. So,
Great jab at all.
Yeah, no, it's like Sam is, Sam Trainer is just like, she's kind of just, she knows what she's doing. She knows what her skill sets are, and she's good at her job. And I'm like, all right, I can like that. But anyways, so she, being very good at her job, is able to track Kai Lang to where his next destination is. And it turns out it's Horizon. Now, this also ties into Miranda, who we've only got a chance in Mass Effect 3 to come across her about 2 or 3 times, along with a couple like emails and whatever. But we've only got a chance to interact with her a little bit, and all throughout she's kind of distant with Shepard, not really telling Shepard what she's up to, only that it's big and important and so on. And it turns out that her father is running a installation on Horizon, which is called Sanctuary, where people have been fleeing to hide from the Reapers. But it turns out it's actually a Cerberus facility used to basically further their research on Reaper technology. Matt, before you go, would you like to kind of cover a little bit about Horizon for us?
Horizon. I actually enjoyed this a little bit because you find out some interesting dichotomies between the Lost and family, as it were.
Yeah.
You go through the base, you find that Cerberus has been working with the Reaper technology, producing Hus in studying indoctrination and various other aspects of Reaper technology, trying to ways of controlling it. You go through it, you see find out Miranda's sister is sent out a distress call, if I remember correctly, saying don't come here, it's a Cerberus trap, and what have you. You end up finding through the security cameras as you go through the mission that Miranda's there, and this is her big mission that she had been looking for. And towards the end of it, you find that Miranda runs into everyone's favorite futuristic ninja.
Yeah.
Who you have been tracking. You get to the end of and at that point, the screen goes blank after either Kai Lang potentially injures Miranda or does not, depending on the loyalty mission. from your ME2 import. What it does for a default ME3, I can't tell you. I think she dies. But you get to the end, and Miranda's father, who's only been mentioned, you know, that he's a powerful businessman and all this other stuff, and how Miranda's the future of his dynasty or destiny or whatever it was. You get into that, and her father is holding the sister that we saved from Miranda's loyalty mission and ME2 hostage. I'm like, I thought we went over this last game when I first got to that point. I was like, didn't we solve this already?
Right.
But you have a few options when it comes to that. You see Miranda, you get into the level, and you see Miranda coming up and injured. Either at the end of it, either way, Miranda's father ends up being pushed out a giant glass plate window by Miranda, which is, I think, probably one of the best scenes I've seen in the sense being able to do it to the soldier in ME2.
Right. Yeah, there's actually quite a few different takes on that. If you didn't do Miranda's loyalty mission, I believe Kai Lang mortally wounds her. If you did do the loyalty mission, she should be able to live. I think there's one or two other little conditions that may play into it.
There's a condition.
Yeah.
You have to give her the intel she wants.
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't give her the intel and she died. I had a loyal Mass Effect 2. I didn't give her the intel.
And she died as well.
Because the intel, in one of the conversations with the intel, you end up telling her that Kai Lang is out there.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she is actually forewarned about it.
She's supposedly not aware of Kai Lang if you don't talk to her about the intel.
Right, which seems kind of weird because you would think at some point she worked with Kai Lang, you know, having been a former Cerberus operative. But that said, though, from one thing that I also gathered was that if you romance Miranda in Mass Effect 2, but then break up with her in Mass Effect 3, she can also die. Like, just the act of breaking up with her will be a reason that she dies at the end. I think irregardless of the information you give her. I may be incorrect on... There may be, you know, it may also have to deal with one or two other little tidbits of information, but that could be like another strike against you in whether or not she lives or dies. So yeah, breaking up with her can kill her. So that's kind of a rough breakup, I guess. So yeah, now one of the great things we learn about here is just how depraved Cerberus is. Now we kind of got a little bit of that in Mass Effect 1. In Mass Effect 2, it's kind of, you know, we don't really
gray.
Yeah, it's more gray up until you get Overlord, though, because when you get the Overlord DLC, you kind of see just how twisted and stuff Cerberus folks are willing to go. Yeah. Once again. Anything else from Horizon that that anyone wants to cover? I mean, basically at the end of it, we find out what Cerberus is really up to. I guess the next big thing, of course, is that they're able then to track to the actual base from there. And once you get to the Cerberus base, you're forced to take Edie with you on this mission. And you get a few. This is actually one of those weird missions where you got a lot more background information, because really fighting against Cerberus forces was pretty easy at this point. Because at this point you probably hit the level cap, or you're near the level cap anyways. And you're pretty much able to lay waste to any Cerberus forces you come across. And Edie's able at various points when she's like unlocking stuff and so on, you're able to go to a console and kind of get some more information. I know there's one great one where you kind of where Shepard will question himself as to whether or not he's really or she's really the person they think they are, whether or not they're just some sort of automation or some sort of AI.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember thinking that it was possible, like, because BioWare is famous for their twists. I remember thinking that maybe we realized that, like, Shepard was actually some kind of like android or super special android or something like that, and they managed to, like, place her consciousness or something. But that never happened. But you get that impression during that thing, because they're talking about, they're like, dude, he or she is totally, the only thing that's intact is the brain. And they're
Right.
like, well, then work with that. And the Elusive Man is very specific, bring Shepard back as he or she was.
Right.
I want Shepard. I don't want some clone or some android or some VI or whatever.
If you have your love interest with you on that mission, they will speak up about it, whereas they're like, irregardless, like, you're Shepard, or you're the Shepard I know, or the Shepard I have. And I think both Garrus and Tali, at least, will comment on it.
Caden will say it too.
Caden will say it too. Okay, I wasn't sure. I never take Ashley with me unless I actually have to. So, so you get that. You also get a tidbit about Edie, where we find out that that AI that we fought on Luna back in Mass Effect 1 is in fact Edie. That was the AI who had tried to take over the lunar base and so on. And that was when she had gained her consciousness, which I thought was a great little bit, and kind of how you learn how she's evolved. There's also we also get to learn a little bit about about what the Elusive Man is doing to himself, where he has implanted himself with Reaper technology. One of the other things we come across, though, is the remains of the human Reaper from Mass Effect 2, where if you chose to destroy the Reaper, some parts of it are still around. And if you didn't choose to destroy it, I guess most of it's there, if I'm not mistaken. Did any of you see like the full Reaper that was there, or no?
I didn't. I destroyed the base in all of my saves because I never trusted Cerberus that much.
Even in your Renegade?
Even in my Renegade, it was one of those, like, I played my Renegade like tactically savvy, and she didn't trust Cerberus, so I felt like it was like, no, I'm not going to let them have this technology, because that would be horrible.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I played my Renegade, I didn't save the collector base either, because I felt that Renegade to me was more of a tactical approach to the game as opposed to just being a jerk.
I see. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I do know that, what's it called, when it comes to the actual EMS points that you get for it, I think it's only like a 25-point difference if you save the Reaper base, or if you didn't.
You get more from multiplayer.
Yeah, exactly. You get more from promoting two multiplayer characters. So yeah, so there's that. Now, two little side things here. If you never activated Legion in Mass Effect 2, you come across Legion in the Cerberus base. He is basically a Geth hunter that shows up and tries to kill you. If you don't rescue Jack at Grissom Academy and early on in Mass Effect 2, she will also be in the Cerberus base, although as a not a Banshee. What are they called? A Phantom.
She's a Phantom.
Yeah. Which is some neat little side stuff there. I don't know if there's anything there for Grunt if you never let Grunt out of the tube, which is, now that I come to think of it, that's something to research. Find out what happened to Grunt if you don't if you don't release him in Mass Effect 2.
Goes back to did you play the game right?
Right. Yes, absolutely. See, so if you play the game right, you're never going to run into these issues, and it shouldn't be. It basically won't be a problem. But if you didn't play the game right, then you're going to run into some harder enemies.
You're playing it wrong.
Exactly, you're playing it wrong. Does anyone have anything else they want to say about the assault on Cerberus, the Cerberus base at all? Because this is basically as far as we're going, because after this
I loved killing Kylo.
Ah, yes.
I was gonna say best.
That was so fun. Right next to punching Geralt in the gut, best Renegade interrupt ever. You reach over, you do a hammer strike to his sword, and you break it, and then you take your Okay, so it's an Omni Blade, regardless what class you're playing.
Right.
And you just stick him. And you go, that was for Thane, you son of a bitch. And I love that so much. I was just like, hallelujah, validation right there.
Yeah, it's one of those, okay, you might have kicked my ass earlier, but I just killed you.
Yeah. Once again, curious, if you played the game wrong, what happens if Thane was never around what does he say? But I'm assuming you still kind of get that moment or a moment similar to that if Thane wasn't alive.
It's somebody else's name. I'm trying to think of it. Because Kylung does kill somebody else. Like if it's Miranda, I think there is one where it's like that was for Miranda. I think it's somebody.
I think I've heard one for both too. Like
if he killed both, he says that's for Thane and Miranda.
Miranda,
yeah.
Wow. Huh. Well, then I wonder though. Then if you don't have Thane, but you're able to save Miranda, he must kill somebody. Well, I wonder if he kills Bailey.
The Solarian counselor. Well, if Kirrahe is not there, he'll kill Kirrahe, because Kirrahe will save the Solarian counselor if Thane is dead. And
really?
If both Kirrahe and Thane are dead, the Solarian counselor's dead.
Oh, okay. Huh.
But if in the case of the Solarian counselor being dead, I'm not sure if Shepard says something to the effect of that was for the Solarian counselor. I don't know if he does anything like that. I don't.
Yeah.
It's one of those things again where it's just, there are so many permutations on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the great things in Mass Effect 3 is how your game can absolutely diverge, with just even the slightest little things, which in my opinion means you're playing it wrong, but still.
Playing wrong is relative to the player.
Right, exactly.
And this is what we love about ME.
Right.
And it just makes it even more tragic that it all gets rained in.
We're not going.
Yes. So we're leaving at that because next week I'll go ahead and cover Priority Earth and everything that happens after that. Matt, I don't want to keep you too much longer and make you late for work.
I'm not too concerned about it. I'm the one in charge tonight, so if they bitch, it's not my fault.
Okay, because there's just a little bit more to go over. Like I said, I'm going to edit the hell out of this because we're well over 2 hours. But just a couple other things, just to quickly touch on some of the side missions. I know I mentioned briefly about Jack and Grissom Academy, some of the other stuff that happens between Tachanka and Rannoch and all that stuff. One of the ones I do want to touch on is Jack, because in Mass Effect 2, I mean, I like Jack enough. Like she, hey, spunky character, blah blah. She was kind of weak to play with party wise, so I never really used her much. But she had that great attitude, and I always liked talking to her and so on. But when I ran into Jack in Mass Effect 3, I was blown away to the point where I have a Mass Effect 2 playthrough where I'm planning out where I will romance Jack, because knowing what happens to her, like I got really pumped for that character, and it really made me miss that she wasn't in my party or I couldn't recruit her somehow, because she's got some great dialogue and just some great moments, not only in that mission but even talking to her afterwards. It seems like she's just a character that really grew, and you see that in a lot of the characters, how they're able to grow and change over the course of 2 or 3 games. Were there any side quests that stood out for you guys?
I really liked where you meet Grunt again on, I forgot what planet it was, but what you do with the Rachni Queen or the clone Rachni Queen.
Yes.
So like toward the end of that mission, like it was a hard decision for me, because I'm like, okay, so do I want to save this or not? And I ended up not saving it. And when I saw Grunt go over that ledge, I cried, because I'm like, oh no, Grunt, I chose the wrong thing. But then I that moment where he's like walking up covered in blood with his gun in his hand, like I felt redeemed. Yes, I made the right choice.
Oh God,
it was an emotional roller coaster, like that last part of that mission for me.
I did not expect myself. Grunt was the at this point. Actually, Grunt was the first time I choked up in Mass Effect 3. And I didn't expect that, because while once again, same thing as Jack, I enjoyed Grunt. I thought he was a great character. I didn't really use him that much in Mass Effect 2, but he was always interesting to talk to. But now I see I had saved the Rachni in Mass Effect 1, so I chose to save the Rachni again, and then finding out that I basically lost all of Arlac Company, and then Grunt stays behind to basically guard our escape. Oh, that was gut-wrenching for me.
I actually did this right after I did the Tuchanka mission. And so I just lost Warden, and I thought I was going to lose Grunt too, and I was just like, no. And so that was that much more when he came out and was like, y'all got something to eat? And I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, you got to love that moment with Grunt. He definitely he definitely shines. It's one of those, great moments in badassery.
Yeah.
But once again, though, it begs the question, with both Grunt and Jack, why can't I have them on my team? It's like, at least Grunt, all right, he's got some time to recover, but I mean, Ashley recovered. I got her back, and I didn't want her back. I want Grunt back. Well, look, forgive me. It's like, whether it be Ashley or Caden, look, we all have our favorites and the ones we don't care about. So forgive me. And I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of why do you hate Ashley rants from it. But I will say this, this is kind of going back to the Geth Dreadnought mission, but I took Ashley with me because she has disruptor ammo. So I thought, oh, this would be a great thing because she could help me out with this mission. And because I had romanced her in Mass Effect 1, but then Tali in Mass Effect 2, they had their conflict scene right when you get into the airlock. And I swear to God, I felt like I should have gotten popcorn because I thought a cat fight was about to break out, and I thought this is just great.
That's awesome.
I'll put a link to the YouTube video stuff of it because, yeah, there's a great little conflict scene with her. That's just it's good stuff. Tali definitely lays it out. It's kind of nice. I'm trying to think of some of the going back to Jack's mission. If you did Overlord. Meeting up with what was the kid's name from Overlord?
David.
David, yes. When you rescue David,
that made me so happy.
It was a sweet little moment. You got the music callback from Overlord, and that it's a short little bit, but it was kind of a nice scene. Beyond the side quest stuff, I just kind of want to go over a couple of gameplay stuff from Mass Effect 3. One of the things, of course, is there are no vehicle sections. There are a few turret sections. There's particularly one turret. Actually, there's two turret sections that don't really do anything. You had the turret when you're on the back of the Geth tank on the final Rannoch mission, where you could not fire that thing at all, and you still get to the same cutscene afterwards. Like, you don't have to shoot the Reaper. Nothing happens if you do or you don't. And then there's the one on Priority Earth where you get this random turret scene in the middle where you don't have to fight off those husks. They just nothing. It doesn't matter.
What?
Yeah, it's like this.
That sounds kind of like something else.
So there's definitely a couple moments where it's just like, well, this just isn't important. Now, if I'm not mistaken, though, now there is a on the other, there's one mission on the Geth planet when you're saving Admiral Chorus. There's two sections with turrets in them. I'll be honest, the first turret I didn't even know was there because playing a sniper, I just hung back in the back of the room.
Same here.
And Garrus kept yelling at me, like, you should really get on that turret, Shepard. Shepard, you should get on that turret. I'm like, what turret are you talking about? Bang, bang, bang. Like, headshot, headshot, headshot. Finally, the mission's over, and I move 10 feet to my right, and oh, look, there's a turret.
There's a turret.
But yeah, but the lack of a tank or a Mako is definitely kind of disheartening. You do get that great conversation between Vega and Cortez.
About the Mako or the tank.
I really do like how they handled gay characters. I mean, I guess we could go ahead and have this conversation. I really do like how they handled gay characters in Mass Effect 3, especially with Trainer and Cortez. I never felt. Oh, I was initially a little bit afraid going in, knowing that Cortez was the gay male option. That he was going to go ahead and pull an Anders from Dragon Age 2 on you. Because in Dragon Age 2 they handled it really poorly. Because if you, for whatever reason, said, hey, look, that's not my thing, you lost reputation points with that character. Whereas in Mass Effect 3, they didn't force it on you at all to begin with. And when that moment came up, you had the easy out of just like the male Shepard has that moment where he can just look at the Asari dancers and be like, that's my type over there, and then that's it, And
you're like, yeah, I'm just looking for the right woman.
Yeah, exactly. And
light deflection. It's really classy. I really like it.
Exactly. It's handled very, very well, and I do I do like that moment. And not only that, you do kind of get the idea that Shepard and Cortez build up a professional rapport, that isn't, creepy or weird or anything like that. Like, it's totally fine. Like, they're just two professionals working with each other, and I like that. It's actually kind of funny because when it comes to Trainer, Shepard can totally come off as a creep if you're a guy, because you invite her up to your room and to play a game of chess, and Shepard's like, all right, it's like, I know how this worked with Kelly, come on, let's go. And she's like, oh, I'm not your type, or you're not my type, and it's like, oh, right.
You mentioned that about Edie's voice.
Right. Well, yes, exactly. You do, and I mean, they were less obvious with her, I think, than they were with Cortez. Yeah. But I mean, once again, going into it ahead of time, you kind of knew.
As femship, you can kind of get ninja masked. Kind of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you invite her up to your quarters and she starts oogling over your shower. And then it's like, you can either tell her to take a shower, or I always choose the bottom one because I'm always just like, that's so awkward. and like if you tell her to take a shower, you can have the option to go into the shower with her, and she showers with her underwear on, which is hilarious.
That's one thing, because I'd seen the YouTube clip on that, and it's kind of unfortunate that not so much that they did a sexy shower scene, like that's whatever, but that they didn't just use camera angles, Like, you can just show the neck up or just show a bunch of steam.
Yeah, exactly.
And still make it look, I think it's fine that Shepard goes in fully clothed. I think it's more like, heat of the moment kind of thing. But, like, she's taking a shower with the door open. Like, why would she? It just didn't, I don't know, it didn't make much sense, but.
That scene was just kind of like, yeah.
It's one of those, like, I mean, maybe if they had more time to just kind of work on the, direction of that scene, I guess, more anything. Like, I don't think they had changed dialogue, just, it's the cinematics of it, but. Yeah. And I can understand not wanting to show any more boob or anything like that. That's fine, All right, well, I don't think we have much more to talk about anyways. There's a certain, I just have a few notes here. Lack of puzzles, but that's also kind of, there's no more hacking, which is actually kind of fine for me. When it came to like the lack of having to hack open doors or lock boxes and whatever. Although I do kind of miss that there aren't any puzzles whatsoever in the game. I think role-playing games, that's kind of a standard to have some sort of puzzle section where you got to figure something out, and I was kind of bummed there wasn't something like that in the game. Resource gathering definitely got changed up in this game, where it became completely trivialized.
Pretty much.
Because it was all
because I was really happy that they got rid of like having to scan everything for like getting your resources for too, but like I felt like it was like something was missing when you were doing it with Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was kind of like an empty space. I didn't like, they had the whole side quest thing where Shepard would go and, okay, first of all, Shepard would go and interject themselves into other people's conversations. And that really, because, I mean, I get it, you've literally saved the galaxy twice now, almost, and so, yeah, I guess when you walk into a room, you're kind of important, but you just can't go up to everybody and just be like, oh, so I hear you're looking for some tissue samples, I just
Shepard is such an eavesdropper.
He is.
Such a creeper.
And it just like, I mean, when it happens with like, you come across people from Mass Effect 1, there's that couple from Mass Effect 1, the brother and sister that are worried about the sister's son because the husband's dead. I can't remember what the exact bit of it, but you run into them again in Mass Effect 3. And so I can understand, yes, you want to interject because it's like, hey, I know you guys, like let's have this conversation again. Or you come across certain other characters and whatever, it's like, all right, that's fine. But when it's just complete random strangers, and then you just go to a planet, you send a little probe, you get an artifact, and you bring it back. And it just seems, especially then the ones where they told you, it's like, oh, hey, can you go get this wet squad, or go find this Marine Corps unit that's out there somewhere, and you go and you launch a probe, and then you get Marines. It just it seemed off,
Yeah, it wasn't fun at all. It was just. I felt like it was something I had to do. It was a chore. It was a chore.
Yeah.
It was a chore again, but instead of on the I can visit a couple systems scale, it was the I have to visit all the systems.
Right. And I was okay with some of them. Like, they tied some of them into the side missions, like on Jacob's quest, like the Turian, or one of the tissue sample ones or something like that, like poison tissue sample ones, was like on Jacob's quest. Like, that's okay. It worked in those,
Yeah, I agree with you.
And there were a couple that also worked, like they were part of the N7 missions.
On the one map. It's a multiplayer map too.
Yeah, well, those all the N7 missions are multiplayer maps.
And those they're like I think on every single N7 mission there's something that you can pick up, like the senator's son is on Firebase Ghost.
Yes, which, by the way, I have yet to find where those are. I've gone through it twice and I've yet to find it. I'm just glad at this point I have a Spectre panel that I can just be like, yeah, just teleport that stuff to me. But yeah, so I'm okay with it when it was on the side missions, but then there was some just like, especially like the ones with the Volus, or the like some of the Hanar ones, like some of the other ones, like the Elcor one as well, is just kind of like, just go to Dakuna and then scan a planet. And then the worst ones were the ones where, like, because me, like, I'm super like OCD, so if I go into like a new system, like between missions, I would just go around systems, just try to scan everything I can. And so
get 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would find stuff ahead of time. Well, that also became kind of trivial because the Reapers they were easy enough to get away from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They were. If you ran around too long, they would eventually overtake you. Right. I learned that the hard. But it only goes back to the last star cluster you were at. So you're like, oh, okay, bad me.
Right.
Yeah, it really didn't impact much other than, oh, I'll do that fetch quest later.
Right.
It really didn't. I don't know. I think it was creative. I think the idea was creative, but the execution wasn't quite there. And I understand they were really trying to make that mechanic less tedious, but they kind of made it the same amount of tedium, only on a bigger scale.
Yes.
Yeah. So that, I guess that's the best way that I can describe it.
I do kind of wish they'd made it a better little mini game of flying around. It almost got to the point where it felt more like Frogger.
Yes.
And so that's kind of then again, look, it really is a side portion of the game. But I think it's just, it's the third time in a row where they kind of made resource gathering, like you said, it's just a different type of tedium. It's sad they missed again, but especially because it's not so much, I didn't mind scanning planets in Mass Effect 2. I just think they needed to rebalance the amount you got.
Yeah.
Like,
if you just sat there and did about 50,000 worth, if you just took the time to do it early in the game and you just brought in a bunch, then you wouldn't even have to worry about it for the rest of the game.
Right.
But when they have it scattered across the game in the little fetch quest, it's like, oh gosh darn it, I just can't go just take care of this right now.
Right.
I have to spread it out over the course of the game and remember to do it.
Yeah. All right, well, just I guess to go ahead and wrap things up here, are there any other little moments in Mass Effect 3 that you want to discuss, that you want to go over? Anything we missed that you feel like we should have said something about, or anything you want to just bring up?
No. I think the reason why this has gone so long is because we've hit so many little things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I may have to gone over almost everything.
Almost everything. And I know there was one thing that I was thinking of that, Char. Blue Rose of Ilium.
Oh God, that was on Grunt's
another
mission.
one of those sad Easter eggs, kind of like the Jonah one.
Yes.
We were actually talking about Jonah. That I was thinking back to that. That just made me. That just was like, oh, I'm telling her about that was just awful.
Oh, I know. I think hearing it alone was hard enough because I remembered, because that was one of the funnier moments in Mass Effect 2, when you got those two together and you get to hear Krogan reciting poetry, you know, and then to find
to Tuchanka, and he's like, "Isn't it beautiful, honey?" And she's like, "I guess."
Yeah, it's definitely like that was it's a sad moment. It really is.
It is, but at the same time, they're poignant,
Yeah.
and I really the math for all. I am a very active member of HTL and Retake. I really do think Mass Effect 3 has some of my favorite moments in all of the trilogy, and
Right.
it's little things like that really like help weigh out the negativity that I see in it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I replayed it at all, is to see those things again, and hopefully that's not all I'll have to play it again for. But
Right.
I just, some of those moments, just I loved it. My most inspiring, heart pounding moment in the entire game was when, after you cure the genophage and Rex is the leader, and Bakara, Eve, later learn her name is Bakara, comes up and she gives this inspiring speech. I mean, she has a pretty epic moment before telling the boys to knock it off when you first get to Tuchanka.
Yeah.
But that ending one is just, you feel, I cried over Morden dying, but after she came out and she spoke of all the new hope and everything that they could accomplish, I just felt so elated. I loved it. That was perfect.
Yes.
It was spot on, and I loved it. That's one of my favorite moments in the entire trilogy, bar none.
Yeah. It definitely was a fantastic bit. Amanda, any final thoughts on Mass Effect 3?
I really enjoyed it. I actually haven't been able to play it recently because my internet won't allow me, because I can't access the DLC, and so it's telling me I can't play my games.
Oh.
So I'm having to go back into Mass Effect 2 and create a new save, so I have so I can import without the From Ashes DLC.
Huh.
But I loved it. Like, I loved it for every moment up until the ending. Like, all the characters that I came to love and hate. Like, I loved the whole experience of just being able to see, even though I thought, like Warden's death or Thane's death, like, that was really hard for me to go through. But to be able to, do little things like punching Quarian admirals, or punching Aljani?
Yes. Khaleesi Albin
yeah,
Jelani. I can't remember her name, but yes.
Yeah, like, punching her again was really cool. Actually, I liked how she came back. Like, where she tries to punch you. Like, I really liked that. And, like, I thought, having a Garrus as a love interest, I really loved how that relationship developed through Mass Effect 3. Like, and Mass Effect 2 is kind of cutesy, but I really loved how Garrus's romance just developed through the whole thing. I wish there was more.
Well, don't we all? I know for myself, when it comes to Mass Effect 3, and I think you, Sky, you'd mentioned this earlier, you'd said that Mass Effect 3 has a lot of great moments, and I know I've said this before to other folks. I think Mass Effect 3 probably has some of the best moments throughout all three games. Some of the best, most well-written, best told, best cinematically moments in the entire trilogy. Unfortunately, it isn't the best game. I think it does it does have its shortcomings elsewhere, and this is outside of the ending as well. Well, ladies, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I'd also like to thank Matthew, who unfortunately had to leave early for work, since this discussion went over 3 hours. I will be heavily editing this down, so hopefully you, the listener, will not have to listen through 3 hours of conversation. Worst case scenario, this podcast may be broken up into 2 parts, which is fine considering the fact that next weekend is actually Memorial Day weekend. So I may not actually record the next podcast next weekend. I'll figure that out later on. But in the meantime, this is Mike, also known as the Awesomologist, for the HTL podcast. Thank you very much for listening tonight. Say goodbye, ladies.
Goodbye, Ryan.